and we have a few people in the waiting room. I'll let them in just 1 minute. And I think that's it in terms of questions. I'm not sure if there's anything else that you needed to ask before we get started. No?
No, I just want to say hi to Bernardo and Tiago.
Hi.
Nice to all see each other.
I'm in Rio, Bernardo in São Paulo.
Oh, I'm in
Tiago
Rio too.
yes, in Rio too.
I moved to São
now.
Paulo, from São Paulo to Rio.
Yes, I'm not in Rio, I'm in Niterói, so we are not the same city.
Yes, Niterói Niterói is down on the water more, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I don't know if more, but it's
More
also
or
in the
less.
water.
All right,
And Kamsing, are you going to attend the conference?
No, unfortunately, I am in Champaign, Illinois. Tracy and I are both here. I just came back at 2 a.m. last night from 3 conferences in a row, and it was just too much for me to go to Australia. So my colleague Alba is in Australia running that conference. So, I mean, I can't say one conference was in Curacao and the other one was in Hawaii. So I wasn't struggling. It was 2 lovely locations, so we had a good time.
So Tamsin, before we get started, just to let you know, I'm in Recife right now, and it's pouring rain. So internet has been oscillating the whole day. So just for you to know, if anything happens, if I disappear, it's because
we'll just keep rolling. We'll keep rolling
on. Is coming
and wait for you to come back.
Up and down the whole day. But anyway.
Okay, I'm going to let everyone in now, and I'll introduce everyone. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Meet the Author with the authors of The Beautiful Game Reimagined. We'll just let everyone in from the waiting room and let it load everyone in, and then we'll go ahead and get started. So let's just wait 1 more minute so we don't miss anyone getting started. This session will be recorded, just so everyone knows, and then we'll get going. Let's just wait 1 more minute to make sure we don't lose anyone. All right, everyone. Let's go ahead and get started. I'd like to welcome you all to the Meet the Author for The Beautiful Game Reimagined, Women's Soccer in Brazil. Today we have the authors of the book. I'll put the link for the book in the chat. The book challenges traditional views of Brazil's football legacy by spotlighting the growing impact of women in sport. Drawing on diverse research methods, the anthology uncovers overlooked histories and calls for a greater recognition of women's athletes. We have 3 authors today, and what I might get you to do is introduce yourselves as we move from one to the other so we don't miss anyone. And with that, I will pass it over to you to have some time to discuss the book.
Can I start? Okay, so good afternoon, everyone, or good evening, depending on where you are. I'm Tiago Maranhão. I'm an assistant professor of history at Loyola University in New Orleans. Right now I'm in Brazil, in my hometown, Recife. And so I'm about to talk a little bit about the whole idea of the book, how it came up. And in the first instance, it was a very interesting, how can I say, opportunity or pleasant meeting I had with Bernardo back in 2020 when we met in person in Aarhus, Denmark, for the Sporting Society International Conference. So there, we basically, we were chatting, and then suddenly we came up with the idea of why not thinking about a book on women's soccer in Brazil. And then I went back to the United States. Bernardo went back to Brazil, and then we started thinking how we would put that together. So we invited Livia to help us thinking more broadly about the book, and then for our pleasant I don't know, we are able to put together, and I must say that an amazing group of scholars, and everybody with different backgrounds, but from the humanities or social sciences. But it was amazing, and it took a lot for us to have everything done. But I believe this beautiful, but it's like, yeah, doesn't show with the background. Anyway, yeah, that's it right here. So the beautiful book with a beautiful cover, and most importantly, with a very good content. Um, and I, at least my opinion is that we are contributing at least to provoke people to think about what's going on in Brazil, especially in terms of understanding the dynamics, the social dynamics, political dynamics about soccer from a different perspective, I would say. So I would leave Bernardo and Livia to talk more about the different parts of the book and the content itself. But I think that was basically how this idea came up in the first place.
Thanks, Tiago. Good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Thanks for your audience, for your presence, and my gratitude to Common Ground Research Network, to the Sport and Society Conference opportunity to meet Tiago and to start this idea and to achieve this project that can, let's say, has a double angle, or has a double aim. In one side, to provide a systematic approach about the research, scientific research in Brazil on social, on football studies during the last 10 years. So in general, we can say that in the 80s of the last century, we started academic approaches we started to study football as an object of scientific, but in the last 10 years, we witnessed a big increasement in many changes concerning the enlargement of the scope and the angles and the possibilities of analysis. On the other side, we aim with this book to provide an introduction to a foreign audience. So it's a kind of lens to observe Brazilian history, to observe social phenomena since the last century, the 20th century, and the 21st century. So that's why we started structuring in two axes, let's say, this book in two parts. So we invited, it's a collective work. So we are 21 authors, and 16 women and 5 men. So it's important to inform this, to share with you this profile in terms also of gender, and as Tiago underlines, we have an intergeneration group. So we have since from undergraduates up to full professors. So we try to gather these colleagues in a collective work, showing this possibility to show Brazil concerning and showing Brazil talking about our history. So the first part is dedicated to a diachronic perspective in which we talks about the Brazilian history through the lens of the women participation, not only as players, but also as spectators, as persons interested in sports as a social phenomenon, and trying to follow a sequence chronologically established that links the authors and periods of the political history in Brazil. So the first republic from the late 19th century to the early 20th century, the Vargas era, an important moment of urbanization and industrialization in Brazil, a period of democratic stability in the country during in the middle of the 20th century, during which Brazil projected an image of a country of the soccer, so winning World Cups and everything that we previously know about the image of the country outside, and the turning to the 21st century when a series of mega event sports puts again Brazil in the international scenario. At the same time, showing this historical sequence, we try to show how we can rewrite, or how we can read again or understand differently under a new different point of view, the participation, the presence of the women. In the first generation of the studies in Brazil, we only stressed the males' participation, the leagues organized by the men, and so on. So the managers, the referees, everything was turned to the investigation on the men's participation. So along with the new generations, and I could supervise some masters and PhD works that take part in this volume. We understand in a different way how the presence of the women was a continuous during this time. So in Brazil, during 40 years, from 1941, there is a decree law by the government that prohibited the practice of women, not only in soccer, but also in other modalities, sports modalities, based on anachronic and pseudoscientific ideas of the body of the females, of the women. And up to the to the 70s, it was prohibited by law to practice football. So we try to show how, despite the prohibition, this banning of the women from official participations and official organizations, there was a social history and a really live and intense participations of women, considering that Brazil is a continental country, so we have a big diverse of regions, and the practice could be depicted in many ways. Anyway, we try to gather this possibility to show to an audience that didn't know about Brazil, how this participation was very intense, not only the footballers, not only the players, but also in the many roles of sports. So the first part, we have 6 chapters in this chronological sequence, in which we talk about the prehistory, let's say, with prior to the prohibition, the long period of interdiction of football, the banning of football and other sports to the women, and the beginning of the 80s of the last century, when we have a participation that we started concerning organization of clubs, leagues, competitions, and even abroad, when FIFA turned to this modality, trying to encourage the organization of the first World Cup, when we have the first in China in the end of the 80s, the first national teams composed by women. So in general lines, the first part is dedicated to stress these aspects. And now Livia will talk a little bit about the second part, let's say, with stressing aspects of contemporaneity, and not only in a historical approach, but also in what concerns media studies, literature studies, and many contributions that we could gather with these invitations to our colleagues here in Brazil.
Sorry, my mistake. Hi, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Livia. I'm a professor at Federal Fluminense University. It's a city it's a university in Niterói, a city near Rio de Janeiro in Brazil. And I would like first to thank you, Common Ground Research, also for the opportunity, and also my friends, Bernardo and Tiago, for the invitation, my colleagues. It was a great opportunity for us, I think, to read more and to learn more about the women's football, women's soccer in Brazil. Before I continue with the Bernardo presentation about part two, I would like to remind you that in 2 years today, we are going to be at the World Cup in Brazil, the Female World Cup from FIFA. And I think that's very interesting for us. In Brazil, we do not have the best experience with our male World Cup. So I think it's going to be very nice if we want this World Cup for women. And it's a very nice opportunity for us to talk about it because we like to say we are a country of football, country of soccer, Brazil, but also we know we are talking about, especially about male soccer. So I think it's time to show to the world also and to show to us, to ourselves, that we have a lot of women playing and working in football as well. So the second part of, as Bernardo said, is about the contemporary aspects of women's soccer in Brazil. We have we have 6 chapters, but we have 2 chapters. I think it's very interesting because they are about what we are producing about the thing. For example, theses about other articles and everything about the women's soccer in Brazil. And we have an interdisciplinarity that I think it's also very important for us to understand what's going on in our country and also in the world. No, we have papers from anthropologists, papers from historians, papers from people from physical education, also women from physical education. So it's very interesting to see how we are talking about this, how the dialogues are so connected between those areas. And we also have here things that something that's very important for us, not only in Brazil, but I think at this book, it shows a lot. It was also in the first part, but also here, that it's the supporters, women as supporters. Women go to the stadiums, women are not only playing football. And as Bernardo said, we have a period in Brazil that it was forbidden for women to play official football, soccer. So we have here a question that is very interesting. What happened to us as a country? What's happened to women in Brazil? What's happened to the most famous sport in Brazil if women weren't playing soccer? So we have some responses here. I think we have some answers, but we have a lot of questions also. And we can think about, like, for example, that we women were at the field, not only in playing, no, not official games, but we were in the field as supporters. We were there as journalists. We were there in other aspects. That's also very important to see here. How was the connection, the participation of women? And we also have here also a chapter that's very interesting from David Wood about the Placar magazine. It's a very new Brazilian magazine of sports, in most of all about soccer in Brazil. They talk about other, but I think the most important issue is soccer. So we have here, how do they reflect women's soccer in those space? And as Bernardo said, also we have a moment that was very important from the 80s. Why the 80s? The 80s, we have until 1979, women were forbidden to play soccer, but only 83 women were allowed as a regular, was made a regularization of the player of soccer. So we have the 8 as a time very important for women in Brazil those one who wants to play soccer. And also in Brazil, it was the time, the same period we are going from the transition from the last dictatorship to our new democracy. So we have a lot of questions. We have a new society think about herself, no? Also the role, the place the woman are playing in this society. So I think this book is, of course, it's about soccer. It's about women's soccer, and it's very new because of that. Because we do not have a lot of books like this, not only in English, I think, but also in Portuguese. So it's a very nice initiative and a very rich initiative, but it's also an opportunity to show another face of Brazilian sports events, Brazilian sports societies, and also about Brazilian too. So I think I hope you like the book. I hope you can read the book and to understand more. But I think it's important to say that it's not. This is only the beginning of all the paper, the works, the PhD thesis, and everything we have here. From in the last 10 years, I guess we have so many people interested in study women's soccer in Brazil. It's very good to see this. It was not so normal, as if you can say like this. When I did my PhD, like I think 12 years ago, I defended. We did not talk about women's soccer. I had a thesis about men's soccer. So I think it's a very good thing to see how it's changed so much. And I think we are just beginning like this. And I don't know, we're open here to questions and ideas, if you can say anything. Thank you very much.
Temsin, just can I add just one thing, just
Yes,
quickly?
go ahead.
Adding to what Livia said and Bernardo said. So the title of the book is also provocation. So basically, when we say reimagine or reimagining the beautiful game, it's literally to put people to think about that. What is the meaning of beautiful game when people think about soccer in Brazil? And when we talk about this, the history or talk about the stories of these women along the decades, it's basically, or if we can generalize that, it's basically stories of struggle. So it's facing prohibition, legal prohibition, facing prejudice, gender prejudice, racial prejudice. So basically, in the pitch and outside it. So as players and as fans as well, or people who consume the sport. So when you talk about that, it's a provocative title, basically to literally reimagine the beauty of that by facing the struggle that those women faced
Sorry, and also
and still
complain what
face,
Tiago
actually.
said.
Sorry.
What Tiago said, it's interesting because my first time in America, at the USA, I was at Latin America Association Congress with a paper about male football, male soccer. And a lot of people asked me about people from the US used to ask me about women's soccer in Brazil. And I said, I don't know, sorry. We didn't, it's not so common because I think it's a normal idea, a common idea to think, well, if they play so much for male, why do not so much for female? And that was, it's interesting to think about that it was not a question from my generation at the time. And now it's a big question. And we have to deal with this also. No, my generation has to say to my students, well, we did not ask about this. And now we have here, and we have those questions. We have so many things to say, so many things to study, so many things to understand, because as Bernard said also, women were always playing soccer in Brazil. Despite the prohibition, we can see that it never stopped. So I think that's the reimagine is also this that Tiago said.
Thank you. So with that, oh, Philip, did you want to go ahead?
Yeah, I just want to jump in and say congratulations to the three of you on what is a fantastic book. I'm so happy that it came out of a conversation at the conference in our house. And my question is also a suggestion, is why don't in 2027 we bring the conference to Brazil and talk about this topic in particular? Because my question for you is, what comes next out of this? You know, it's such an important book to put out there, a thing to say as a beginning. It shouldn't be a beginning, but it is a beginning. What do you see individually and collectively as what are the next steps and a broader agenda for research, awareness, and social change?
I would say that, and I agree with you, because it's a beginning, a kind of beginning, but maybe it's a beginning of disclosing what for decades was supposed to be erased, right? So those stories and those women, they were casted out of the history of Brazil's sports, soccer, whatever you want, right? So it's of course there were many works and historiography about that, as Bernardo said, in the last maybe 15, 20 years, but it's still not well known for the general public or even among scholars, right? So I think it's a good point, and again, a provocation for people to rethink that, and it's a beginning for I use that word, so disclosing this past and the present as well. So 2027 is an amazing opportunity for people to understand as well the present dynamics of these experiences in Brazil. So not only, as I said, people who play soccer on the pitch, but the economy around it. Thousands of people live soccer, football in Brazil outside of the pitch, right? So we have people from the physicians, psychiatrists, a bunch of professionals who work, and we see that when the national team plays, right? So when the women's national team is in a competition, we see on the bench, that's not only players, but there's a whole team of professionals around. And it happens in different localities, different cities around Brazil, with the National League and amateurs playing as well. So it's a whole economy of sports around it. So I think, and if you want me to sign up for your proposal, I'm up. So
good, very good.
2027.
Let's do
Brazil. Yeah.
It looks like we've got another. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Bernardo.
Philip, thanks for your kind words. I also subscribe this idea because
We can do this, Bernardo.
Sorry?
We can do this. We can do this, Bernardo, here in Rio.
If I'm not mistaken, it would be the first one in South America, but maybe I'm wrong. Anyway, it would be an exciting idea. But when you think about the next steps, I think that I believe that we, after doing this kind of revision of our own history, I think that it would be very interesting to continue with comparative perspectives. As Livia said, in the case of US, we know we have the outstanding book of Joshua and Brenda Elser that wrote the foreword of our book concerning Latin America and providing not only a national paradigm of the history based on our this traditional idea that dates back to the last century, but I think that we need to cross to know more about the other experience in order to provide comparative perspectives. It would be a good agenda, research agenda. I am a senior professor, so as a senior professor, I study traditional topics, but I realized that my students, PhD students, master students, were more and more women and more interested in student females practice in sports. So it was learning with them that I started to share with Tiago this and Livia this idea of to provide a systematic approach about this history.
And that kind of leads on to my question as well, if you don't mind. The Sport and Society Conference that we are having this week has the special focus, which is global sports, local cultures. So what can this case study of the Brazil women's soccer tell the world, and what is the influence of the global in the local and vice versa, which is kind of what you just hinted on, Bernardo. In terms of the US team influencing the, American team. The US women's soccer team has been hugely influential here in terms of salary disputes and pay and things like that. We have another question in the chat. It says, this book seems to be comprehensive. This book seems to be a comprehensive, detailed look into the previously overlooked area of sports and in Brazil. Can I ask the authors what the hardest part of researching and writing this book was for each of you? Additionally, do you have some favorite moments from researching this book?
Well, I'm going to start this time, if I may. I think I also want to thank you for the question. It's very interesting. I think Bernardo said the comparative is very necessary. For example, Brazil was not the only country to forbid women from playing soccer. That's very interesting to understand. And we also have difference because some countries we have the federation forbidden, and other countries like Brazil have the government forbidden. So I think it's also very, very interesting to understand that the gender idea of sports, the gender social situation, no, not only from, in this case, we're talking about women, but also other discussions are very interesting. Now in Brazil, we have people studying, for example, native soccer. And it's very interesting to see they are playing soccer also, the natives. So we have other soccers, as we say, other footballs. That's very interesting to see from this one. And just for curiosity, it was so strong, the idea in Brazil that men play soccer, that my generation, for example, was born when the prohibition ended, when the regulation started, the same year. My generation, when we have physical education at school, we did not play soccer. Girls didn't play soccer. We have another sport. It was so natural that's not for us. And all this time, women were playing soccer and we didn't know. So I think it's very important to see the impact of this also, not only in Brazil, but in other countries as well. For me, it was very interesting. It was not easy to organize the book from my perspective, because I am so used to think men's soccer that it's sometimes difficult to put myself at this place, to think about the difficulties, because when we talk about men's football, we're talking about a lot of money, a lot of investment and everything. So we have to make another direction, other questions also. So I think for me that was the most difficult thing. And also something that was always in my mind is we are doing this for the English speaking, people who speak English, reading English, and we have to discuss this also in Brazil. I think that's very interesting to think about, and I think also the opportunity we can talk about to make the next conference here in 2027, because I think it's a very nice way to discuss all those things and to think about all those things.
I consider that one of the challenges that we have to face to organize this book, to edit this book, is that we need to deal with different methods and sources. Traditionally, the sports studies in Brazil started during using only newspapers and magazines as sources. And when we started, we have already many books written by journalists that based in the same sources, but without the scientific methods, wrote a kind of history or story of the Brazilian culture and sports and football and soccer mainly. And now in this book, gathering these different angles, we use it ethnography, we use it oral history, we use it archives. We try to structure these two parts, also based on the sources that unexpected reveals us interesting things about, for example, the roots, the origins of football practice, soccer practice in Brazil. For instance, the second chapter written by Aira Bonfim that worked at the Soccer Museum in Sao Paulo, in an exhibition in the museum called Visibility for the Women's Soccer. She founded many information very interesting about women's practice in an archive of a circles. So in the beginning, as it was not allowed to the women play in a regular field, they use the spaces of a circles at that time in the beginning of the 20s and to play with the ball, to do a performance and so on. So based on this totally unexpected archive, she found very interesting views on how it was developed during the last century. So it's just an example of interesting things that the sources, the primary sources, could show us some path to face this phenomenon in another way.
That actually leads perfectly into our next question. Hugo, would you like to just unmute and articulate your question if possible?
Yes, hi. Can you hear me? Also, my question is that I've been working on the soccer practice on farm works communities in California, and it has been like some sort of a struggle in order to have access to soccer fields, mainly because most of them are undocumented and they engage in dialogue with local authorities in order to have access to soccer fields, and it has been a kind of important struggle for them, practicing in some way some sort of citizenship. So my question to you is, what has been the issue in regards to access to play the sport for women in Brazil, given the fact that you mentioned that it was prohibited some years ago? So I don't know how playing soccer, not only professional, but people just like to play the game for the sake of it. So anyway, it's a general question, if you might have some ideas.
I don't know who wants to jump in and answer. So basically the question is, has access to soccer fields been an issue for women playing soccer in Brazil? So Bernardo just mentioned that there was a circus space that they were using. So did you want to elaborate a little bit more on spaces and how people access spaces for playing soccer, women specifically?
Yeah, I think it's not that they don't have the field for this, for example, but it's not so easy as for women as for men. That's the big thing. For example, we have it's difficult to find places you can dedicate yourself as a professional. The World Cup in France, the Women World Cup in France, it was in 19, I guess. There were a lot of players, women players. They needed supported from the Brazilian government to pay their trip, to pay and everything. We do not have this in male World Cups, for example. That's obvious. They are winning so much money. There's no meaning for this. So we have, for example, if you go around and you see in Brazil, we have also in this the idea that boys are playing soccer more than girls. Now at schools, and we have a school for training for the beginnings. So, in my opinion, I think it's not equal. It's so we can see this in a way. For example, in Rio, that we have people playing solo outside and everything. We have summer all the entire year. So we also have sports playing for children and everything. It's not the same thing. We do not have still. We do not have. We have 40 years of the regularization of women's soccer, and we do not have, not even close, the investment and the same opportunities from women and men in Brazil to play soccer. But not even a little close. I think that's something very important to say. We have, for example, ex players from women's ex players who were at World Cups, and now they are driving public transportation in Brazil. And that's not something you can even think about the players, the men players. So I think that's a big difference between both. Sorry, I don't know if I did the answer. I just made a manifest about it. Sorry.
Yes, nowadays we have schools, we have clubs, we have fields in which the women can also and girls and teenagers can also play, but we still have a resilience that that says, oh, this is shaped to the man. This is something that it's a cultural value. It's changing. We can say there is a mobilization by the media, by the government, by the federations, confederations. There is also some kinds of policies saying that each club that have professional football for male also have the obligation to have the a team made by women. So they try to create laws in order to push and to stimulate this, but we know that it's very it's not easy. Things are changing, as Livia said. The decades in the past decades, it was, if you go to a stadium, it was rare. We could say that 90% of the audience were made by men. Nowadays, we can see that there is an attendance of, and the presence and participation of girls that go in groups together and in order to follow the matches. So we can notice that there are changes, but as we know, it's something that is still unequal if we compare the panorama, the situation.
So if I may add something about that, just what Bernardo just said, even if they, I mean, even with all of these initiatives to incentivize more professional female soccer in Brazil, still among themselves, among the players, and even the commentators, women's commentators, one thing that I think they point out and they stress that a lot all the time is, okay, the national, the Brazilian Confederation created a national league. And the big clubs have their female teams play the national league. But the thing is, we deal daily with this historical prejudice that a girl who plays soccer is a masculine girl, right? So all those prejudice, and even with those initiatives to put the to catch the public, or to call the public, the general public, to watch a women's soccer, it's a huge challenge. And they point out that the big mistake, one of the big mistakes that the national, the Brazil Federation Confederation is doing is when they schedule the matches. Let's say a big club from Porto Alegre against a big club from Rio, right? The they schedule the match, let's say, in a Tuesday afternoon at 3 p.m. where nobody's going to watch. So they broadcast the game, and to make things even worse, they do not play in their home stadiums. So the male team plays in the home stadium, right? So the crowd is used to go to their home stadium and watch their team play. When the female team is playing, normally they put the match, to be in a amateurs club outside of the city, as I said, at 3 p.m. So nobody's there to watch. And when they broadcast that, the whole spectacle, the whole pack of the show is not there. So to attract more viewers, to attract more fans, to attract younger generations to watch the game, they're doing wrong. So the players complain about that, commentators complain about that. So how it's not just to create a league, and not you have to create the whole opportunity for the product, if you want, to be more visible, and then you're going to attract younger audiences to follow that, because the oldest generation, they have this ingrained prejudice, say, they don't play football, they don't play soccer, they play a different thing. They, it's not attractive, it's not nice to watch, all of this BS stuff. And Europe proves, them wrong, because you put like Barcelona playing Arsenal at Camp Nou with 95,000 people watching the game, women's Champions League there, right? So the thing is how you change, society's mindset in terms of, okay, they have a history of playing this game as well, but they were erased. And they keep erasing them when they put a game at 3 p.m. in the afternoon on Tuesday, day, whatever, outside of their stadium. So they're there, they're playing, but but nobody's watching. So
Thanks, Tiago. We have a question in the chat, and I don't know your name, so 44773. Would you like to tell us who you are and ask your question? Sorry.
Hi, no worries. For some reason, the number showed up. So the name's Nadina Air. I was in the previous session earlier. Yeah, so I think, Tiago, you're kind of touching on that, like looking what the future, like I think you're touching on some points what the future should look like. So my question was, the students are active members in their society, right? So they know when there are unequal opportunities. And I've had students in the past, male students, come and pick the topic of, female soccer, in particular in the United Kingdom, because growing up, they would see what opportunities they had and the opportunities that their little sister didn't have, for example. So it wasn't like equal or the same. So for me, I would like to ask you as authors, in terms of your book, how this book, what you envision for it in terms of like being used in the classroom and for the future. Like, I teach students who study sports management, so we know that they're the younger generation, they're the future. So what, we have to give them some hope. And what are your, as authors, where do you see this going, and kind of like giving them the hope that they can be resilient and they can make these necessary changes moving forward?
I think this question is to Livia, because she reflected a lot about this issue, organizing another book that's only in Portuguese, but something.
But it's for free also, so if you want to try to read in Portuguese, I can send you the book. Sorry, Bernardo, I just interrupted. So go on, Bernardo. Or
Go ahead, Livia.
Okay.
Then I complete.
We have this the idea. I work a lot with a friend, I call also Rosanna, who is at this book with a chapter also, and we are both teaching. We have students that are going to be teaching. They're going to be professor, teacher. So we are always thinking about can they use sports, or especially soccer, to talk to their students exactly this is important, not only for those who are interested in soccer, but also as a society, because we here in Brazil, we are all talking about soccer, if we like soccer or if you don't like soccer. That's not an option. You have to know basic soccer to understand our society. So I think that's a good opportunity to see, for example, sometimes there are some themes or some subjections you want to talk, they are so difficult to talk. Or I think that's something general in the world today, the Western world today. We have to talk about gender, for example, the difference in gender, the problems with so many racist people and everything. And I think when you read a book like this, you can talk about some things, some subjects. They are so expensive, so difficult to talk about at school or with students and everything. So I think that's a beginning. And also, as you asked, for example, for those who are trying to do something like I forgot the word in English, sorry, but something like they are going to work as, I don't know, a manager in soccer and everything. We have all these opportunities here. We have those women playing this, sorry for the joke, but this beautiful game that the beautiful way, the most famous sport in the world, I don't know, the most watched sport maybe in the world also. And it's a big opportunity to do something with this. So I think, for example, who is going to be a manager of those women who are going to work? I know some women, they're doing very nice, very great job, very important job in communication. For example, now in the FIFA World Cup from the clubs, I have a friend who's at US right now working about this with this, and she said, as a Brazilian, people used to ask me, how do we, she knew so much about football, about soccer, about be a supporter and everything, that she was a great person to the job, for example. So I think that also it's an opportunity to discuss social things that are so difficult for us. I know for some of you at the US also, and I think it's all over the world, we have to discuss, for example, in Brazil, it's we have so many papers, so many good works and research about racism and football and soccer, because this reflects our society. So I don't know if I answer your question, but I think soccer is one of the subjects, in my opinion, most easily to talk about with students, because we can make this connection with them. And even if they don't like the sports, they will know the people who are playing. They will know, for example, now at the US, they will know there is a World Cup. And also we are all watching the US right now, including we are having a game at this moment. So here in Brazilian, yesterday, for example, we had a game at 10 p.m. And it was Manchester City and I forgot the other.
Al
Hilal. And it was very interesting because I had to wake up early to be here in Niterói. It's another city. And then my students were always like, all there like this. And I said, what's happened? And they were watching this game. There's no Brazilian play. They were watching this game and they know everyone. And it's very interesting because they know everyone, not only from Manchester. So I think, and we start to talk about everything, about the disequality that is not equal. We have players from the clubs from Europe. So we can talk about include the domination, the cultural domination, in other countries, in our country, in all the regions. So I think it's a very nice opportunity to talk about those things, and also to talk about something that's very important, that we do not have equality of gender in the world. So that's a great question, because here for us in Brazil, for example, in Brazil, I always listen to my students say, well, soccer is the women's sports in the US. So they all imagine women are getting more money than men in soccer in the US. And then they start to look and they say, no, they're not. And they ask, why not? If what's interesting, what the things about the money. And it's not only about the money. So I think those are questions very important for us to think about. And also you at the US, we can think about from Brazilian case.
Thanks for the question. Something interesting when it talks about the relationship, the interface football and school, is that always when we think about this link, we associate with sport or football with physical education. So it's something related to the body, to the practice, to a specific discipline. And as we know, and of course, this book, there is a language more academic, it's the results of research or scientific, but of course we can adapt and to teach through football about geography, history, economics, to show how why Brazil is in the top rank of the exportation of football players every year. So we can mobilize football as a skill to even with when you talk about language communication. So many expressions in Brazil comes from the language of football, the expressions that we use in football as a way of socialization. Even the politics in Brazil, the politicians use expressions to be popular, inspired in the metaphors of football, of soccer. So it's very interesting and exciting, this possibility of using football not only in physical education at school, but also in other contexts.
And also, sorry, did you finish, Bernardo?
Yes,
sorry.
yes.
And only one curiosity for you. In Brazil, we do not have the same way to play. I don't know if it's the same way, but not the same organization. We do not play, for example, those who are going to be the footballers or the players of the future. They do not start at school or at university. We do that at clubs. So it's very different for us. For example, you do not have the team of your school that's a very famous team, then other schools are competing against each other and everything. You have the same club, the same teams we have, for example, at the professional. So, right, for you to make a point, for example, we have a very famous here in Rio school for a soccer school for young kids. It's from Paris Saint-Germain. It's not from a school. It's not the school. So they came here, Paris Saint-Germain, the team, the club from France. So it's a little different, because we do not have, for example, how to show to our students it's an opportunity at school to get a scholarship, for example, and everything. It's very different the way it works here. So just a curiosity so you can understand why Bernardo and I were talking most about how to teach something at class, not only the use of the physical education, the body and everything.
And just to add,
Oh, I think Tiago might be frozen, or maybe it's me who's frozen.
No, it was Tiago, I guess. I thought it was me also. But the same thing.
Tiago
you hear
said
me?
that there was a storm, and perhaps that
Hello?
was the case. We'll have to see. Are you there, Tiago?
As I
You're
said, weather here is horrible. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Sorry, do you
Yeah.
want to try and articulate what you were saying?
Yeah, can you hear me well now?
Yeah, so we
Okay.
can hear you now.
Okay, so I was saying, just to add to what Livia said and Bernardo said, and playing again the devil's advocate, even at school, we have a history of erasure and prohibition. So the reason why our generation did not, girls from our generation did not play soccer at school during the physical education classes is also attached to the past. And physicians, I mean, I'm talking about the early 20th century, where physicians basically played a role in influencing decision makers, politicians, to basically not allow women to practice some kind of sports during physical education classes at school. For instance, because it would be bad for their bodies, and their bodies would be basically should be shaped in a mission for the state to reproduce. So basically, volleyball, or tennis would be allowed, but contact sports wouldn't. So that's why they did not play soccer at school as well during the physical education classes. And today, back to today's reality, as Livia said, young people, young boys, they do not start in at school normally, so they play as well, but they go to their clubs, right? When they are 8, 9, 10 years old. But you don't see that happening with girls either. So the B clubs, millionaire clubs, I would say, they do not, they are mandatorily obligated to have a women's team, but as a professional team, right, for the league. But they do not have the youth. So you don't have like under 21, under 17, under 15, as it happens with the boys, right? So that's another problem. So girls who want to play when they are 13, 14, they do not find the chances in their clubs, in their city clubs, but the boys do, right? So.
All right, that puts us right at the end of our time. I'd like to thank you all for participating and joining us today. I put the link for the book in the chat, but I'll just go ahead and add that again. We will post this video online as well, so everyone can have a look and watch along. But thank you all, and thank you to our authors.
And don't forget 2027.
Johnson, Sarah, we are going to talk about
Sign me
yes.
in.
We'll live in
Rio.
Brazil. We'll wait for
Thank you so
there.
much, everyone. Thank you very much for the opportunity to
Thank
talk
you a
about the
lot
book.
too.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.